Hey, this is Neil with Icon, and again, here I am with our friend Scott Spiva here with Icon, who has been through the ringers with everything for, how many years you been here, Scott?
Over 12 now.
Over 12, all right.
12, yeah.
All right, well, today we're going to talk Toyota.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a couple of different, Tacoma, we're going to talk Tundra. We're going to start with our shock systems. Now, there's two different ones and a brand new one we're really excited about coming out, and kind of walk all the way through the front, get back to the tail end of those trucks and talk about this. Scott, let's talk about the EXP Series. Now, this is newer for us and is an opportunity to use the OE spring shock. Then we're going to get over into what we would think is, let's do it right and let's go full Icon.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the 2.5 EXP Series is kind of our interim before you get into the full threaded body coilover. It does reuse the factory coil spring for all the applications. That's kind of the intent behind it, especially these days since coil availability is tough.
Okay.
It makes it product availability much easier to come by, basically. So we can still build a full 2.5-inch diameter aluminum bodied shock here with our internal reservoir, just like our regular shock series. The only real difference is the utilization of the factory coil and the coil hardware.
Perfect. So it gives you the quality of the shock, reduces the price as you move through doing everything that you're going to do to your truck, but then you can also get to, I'll call it the let's do it right, let's go full Icon. Let's talk about that with the spring and how that makes a difference going from, again, your OE spring and a grade 2.5 up to the full Icon system here.
Gotcha. When you step up from the 2.5 EXP to the regular 2.5-inch series, you get a full threaded bodied coilover that is adjustable in height rather than just having a few different settings via snap rings like the EXP has. You have infinite control of that height, you could use, so to speak. So very fine tuning available for your stance. And there's also more travel available with these coilovers compared to the EXP because we're still using that factory hardware. There's some little bit of limitations as far as how far we can get it to cycle, but when we factor in our coil, you get a better spring rate for the application and that extra travel that we're trying to get.
How much extra ride height can you get out of this shock?
Ride heights they're kind of comparable at max. It depends on the application. Like these here, these are the new 22 Tundras.
Yeah.
So this at max height with an aftermarket upper arm, right, that's an important thing to mention. You can get 3 inches at max with the EXP, and I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I'm 99% sure we can get up to 3.5 inches on the full body coilover.
Great, great. So you go from shocks, body coils to, where's the next step up here?
Well, I mentioned upper control arms,
right.
And on these Toyotas, it's very important. Usually the upper arm is playing a factor for alignment. As we add lift height, generally above 2 inches of lift or so, your alignment, it just falls out of spec and there's not enough adjustment in the factory points to bring it back in to where we need it to be so the truck drives properly. So the upper arm fixes that alignment so that it'll align right on the factory Toyota specs, even at max height. But Toyota also has a kind of a bonus available where their limiting factor for total wheel travel is their stock upper control. So in a lot of cases, when we swap out that upper arm for an aftermarket one, we are basically unlocking more travel that can be had. So we have different length of coilovers kind of depending on whether or not you're incorporating an upper arm. Perfect. We call it standard travel versus extended travel. Basically, you want that extended travel with your upper arm to get as much travel as possible.
So now on the Tacoma's Toyota Tundra, we're also looking at the electronic valve system.
Correct. Yeah, that's...
Talk us through this boy.
The valve itself we call the CDE valve, or compression damping electronic valve. And this is all controlled by the IIC module, or the Icon Intelligent Control, that lives under the hood. So basically, this is a solenoid valve that actuates and controls the flow of oil into the reservoir as the shock is compressing. Very similar to how the CDC valve does, but this can react every 40 milliseconds, much quicker than we could ever hope to do.
Yeah.
And utilizing the accelerometers and algorithms and your user settings that you would set up through the IIC app, basically the shock will do all this on the fly. So it's constantly adjusting damping based on what it's sensing the truck is doing. So you can set your shocks nice and soft and keep that ride quality that you're after, but then if something sneaks up on you, a big hole or something, you don't have to worry about slowing down. It'll detect it, crank the shocks right up to, compensate, and then dial them right back down to where your baseline was as soon as you're over it.
So that's your IIC controlling your CDEV on your 2.5 stage system, right?
Correct, exactly.
Hey,
yeah.
check that out. Now we got this really cool set of springs back here. When we get to the back of the truck, there's a couple of options on how somebody's going to buy through this. Let's walk us through that. In fact, I'm going to let you roll over
Switch
on my
sides.
right here
Okay.
and walk through that leaf system.
So this is what we call the multi-rate leaf spring, and it's available for several applications. This one happens to be for Tacoma.
Yep.
Same thing for Tundra, just a little bit bigger looking. And this would basically allow you to configure the spring for 3 different spring rates based off of what kind of load lives in the bed of your truck.
Okay.
These days with overlanding or even work trucks, or there's any number of different things, and guys are modifying these trucks so that there's stuff that lives on the vehicle full time. And so when you're trying to set up your ride height, taking that into consideration is very important. That way you can set it up so that the rear is sitting at the height that's appropriate for the front. So that way we lift the rear scotch, then we lift the front, so we get that level that most guys are after. As a bonus, this also gets more travel when paired with an appropriate shock. So we've already talked about this rear shock here with the CDEV.
Yep.
But the shock itself, this we call the RXT version, another acronym for you.
Good.
RXT stands for rear extended travel, extended travel. And the magic is really coming from this trick rod end here. This offsets the rod end from the end of the shaft.
As opposed to, okay,
Right.
perfect, yep.
So that allows you to fit a physically longer shock in the same mounts on the truck. So if for apples to apples, this rear 2.0 for a Tacoma here, it gets X amount of travel, it has this extended, this compressed length. The RXT shock has longer travel comparatively, the same compressed length, but a longer extended length. And the two paired together is over a 25% increase on the rear of travel on these trucks, which if you're wheeling them, makes a big difference off-road, just because it'll keep those rear wheels more planted and cut down on that bucking that the Tacomas and the Tundras really want to do when you hit something in the rear. So it makes it a lot smoother.
So a customer's coming in and they're talking about their vehicle. I overland it, and mostly on some of these pickups, you're not going to get that rock crawling kind of feel.
They're not
with
made
the new
for it
ones,
as much, right?
And so I'm overlanding, I'm adding the shell, I'm adding the refrigerator, I'm putting some pull-ins, pull-outs, I got a rooftop on this thing. That's really when you get, based on all of that weight, and then I don't think when I talk to some of these customers that they know exactly how much weight they're really beginning to stress that truck out with.
Exactly.
So this opportunity says, okay, if you look at it, you're into 2,500, 3,500 pounds pretty quick, plus you've thrown wheels, tires, and everything else on it. You've got a stage system. Where would you go to start that customer who's standing in front of you just saying, this is what I'm doing and where I'm going, and I've got this added weight to it. Where are you taking me?
So if you're talking added weight, I would definitely jump to the stage that includes the multi-rate spring, which in the case of the Tacoma and Tundra is stages 8, 9, and 10. So
Okay.
the high-end ones. If you look at them, the stages below it, basically stage 5, 6, and 7, mirror the 7, 8, 9, just they do not include the multi-rate spring or the
spring
RXT.
options.
It just has our standard, what we call the add-a-leaf, goes in the stock spring, gets you a little bit of lift, softens the spring rate, but not to the degree that this guy will give you.
Guy's standing at the counter and he comes in. Gentleman's at the Tacoma or Tundra, but he's talking about the Overland and what he's added to it. He's added the weight. He's changed his drivetrain ratio, and he's looking, what's the right thing for me on my suspension? Or are you going to take that general introduction to somebody who wants to start getting out?
Gotcha. So again, if he's adding weight, I would recommend the multi-rate spring.
Okay.
Stage 8, 9, and 10 is where those really come into play, but beyond there, it's coming into what kind of shocks you're looking for.
Okay.
That's the age-old question.
Yep.
And the easiest way to ask is, what kind of adjustment are you looking for? Do you want no adjustment? Does that not mean anything to you? Do you want some manual adjustment or the electronic adjustment? So that will really kind of point you in the right direction to kind of figure out which way the customer is heading. Because other than that, the kit is all the same. You're just really choosing the bells and whistles that kind of come along with it.
It's always in that customer question and understanding their needs. Find out what they're doing, where they're going.
Correct.
How big the tires are, how big the weight is, how much are they putting on, and are they going out on the weekends or are they heading to the Arctic and they're going to be gone for a month?
Absolutely.
That's where it kind of comes in, right?
Yep. If you've got a guy that's just driving back and forth to work, taking the kids to school, that sort of thing, one of our basic kits like a stage 3 is awesome because it'll include your upper control arm. It'll get you a full coilover here for that ride quality performance. One of our basic 2-inch diameter rear shocks, depending on where you land. And then we have that add-a leaf to go with it to complement, get some rear in the lift in the rear, and smooth the ride out as well.
Perfect. Hey, and if you've got more questions, give us a call here at Icon Vehicle Dynamics. You can also go online, grab us at www.iconvehicledynamics.com, and you'll see a whole lot of information that'll answer your customer questions. Thanks again.
Thank you.